Bienvenidos a otra edición de Tomando Café con Jesús Hoyos. Esta es una edición, este es el último episodio de 2021 y hoy le tengo un secreto, no vamos a tomar café, vamos a estar tomando whisky. Es viernes, 5:30 hora de acá de Eastern Time, y hoy vamos a hablar un poco de no code y marketing analytics. Ya mismo hacemos las introducciones y ya saben, estamos ahora en vivo en LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, y eso eventualmente pues estará en mis plataformas de podcast, Spotify del mundo, en Instagram. Y ahora pues voy a cambiar, como dicen por ahí, al difícil, al inglés. I'm going to switch to English. And today, we have a co-founder of Growth Nirvana, Ajay Varia. How you say the last name?
Yep, Varia. You got it, Jesus.
I got it.
You got it.
Yeah, and we have a good friend for many years, troublemaker, investor, Edtech, Martech, all the above, Max Raphel. I'm in sunny Florida, but you don't see that from my window. Max is in sunny Mexico. And you are in San Francisco, no?
No, I'm in sunny Laguna Beach. So we're all in beautiful places. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm towards the Everglades, so, but not that far away from the beach, like 20 minutes, so not that far. So, like I said in the introduction, even though this is Tomando Café con Jesús Hoyos, today is, drinking whiskey with Jesús Hoyos. So, we decided, to have whiskey today. I'm drinking Mars whiskey, white from Japan. Okay, so it's a single malt. My daughter, she loves, anything Japanese, and she buys the stuff for me. So I don't have to buy it. She gets that for me. So what are you guys drinking?
Go ahead, Ajay.
Because for me, I got Glenlivet.
Good choice.
So it's my on the rocks. So you fooled me. I thought this was coffee, but instead it's, we're drinking whiskey and stuff.
Cheers. And I'm having Macallan, 15-year-old Macallan.
Ooh.
Cheers to everybody.
Cheers. Yeah, having a double and neat. So
it's hot. It's hot here. I have it on the rocks.
Yeah, I know. Plus water. You guys are, I know Max. I mean, he loves single malt, but Ajay, you a whiskey drinker or?
No, I'm not a professional like Max is or yourself, but I do enjoy a simple Scotch once in a while, especially the last maybe year or two when we're at home.
And I was just with Jesus in Miami, and we had several nice whiskeys and cigars. So maybe the next time you should have a Tomando whiskey y puros con Jesús Hoyos.
Yeah, it's funny because I think we've been many places, Max. Looking for cigars and whiskeys. From Peru to Brazil, Miami, South Africa.
Yes.
So we always find a place where we can have a good cigar and a good whiskey. So and all on behalf of Martech and Edtech and CRM projects.
Exactly.
So, the reason we're here together because Max, put me in contact with you, Ajay, and you have a good value proposition in the product you're putting together. Growth Nirvana, which has no code marketing analytics. And let me put this into context because as there's two, in the industry, I'm talking, the whole customer engagement, CX, CRM, marketing, Martech, the 7,000 applications that we get in Martech. So a lot of people are looking for low code solution, and they're looking to simplify, the way they do things, especially when customers are demanding simplicity, customers are demanding, they have higher expectations, and at the very end, companies need to have the right data to empower, their employees so they can make better decisions. through customer journeys to better campaigns, upsell, cross-sell, be able to, optimize, your ad tech investment, all that stuff, So one of the things that I see, and probably as everybody knows, Salesforce bought Tableau. They have Tableau CRM, which is embedded, within the Sales Cloud or the Service Cloud. Of course, Microsoft, they have Power BI. You have Snowflake, and there's like 200 more out there. Okay. And at the very end, the people that need, simplicity in all these marketing analytics are the CMOs, brand managers who need to make, just in time, real time decision. Not so much with the big data or the volume of data, but with the right data. Okay, with that data they have in front of them, and that's a challenge still. Okay, that's a challenge. I mean, trying to put together a marketing analytics project without talking about data lakes and BI, it still is a project, and by the time you put the project together, you want to deploy something, too little, too late. How to clean the data, how to prepare the data, how to represent the data so you can make decisions, and and the reason, besides having you here, Ajay, I want to also learn from the perspective of Max, because Max he's talking to CMOs and CEOs worldwide, higher education and other industries, and they want to gather that data so they can make decisions, and that's the toughest part to do. So tell me a little bit, Ajay, I mean, how you see that trend, and how Growth Nirvana fit into a solution that can help companies.
Yeah, I mean, I think you summed it up great, because I've seen that same trend where like marketing is more data driven than ever before, but your data is all over the place. I'm running these Facebook ads and Google ads, so I have a bunch of data over there, third-party marketing data. Then I have a bunch of product data buried in my database. Then I have data in Salesforce or HubSpot. Maybe I'm doing emails with Marketo. It's in all these different places. And then how do I get it into one place? How do I make it understandable? And as you said, there's these big projects that get created to try to get all the data, put it together, but it never reaches kind of the end user, right? The marketer who needs to make decisions quickly on a real-time, daily basis, right? Versus, these big infrastructure projects, and then does the end user even get what they want, right? Which is reports around their campaign. So that's where kind of the concept of, this kind of no-code product, right? Like, can you make it where you don't need to hire engineers and have this huge 6 to 9 month project? Can you get something, deliver value to the end user, the marketer, in 5 minutes, right? And so that's where the idea came up, and that's where we're trying to solve with this product.
Why you come up with the no-code, growth marketing analytics?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's actually, I personally did all this stuff myself. So I remember every Sunday night I was working at Masterclass, right? I'd get the data from Facebook and Google and our internal systems, put them in spreadsheets, and then like upload it to Tableau and then email it out. And you try to automate it a little bit, and then it was just so challenging. And then what I found is the next job I worked at was at Emeritus, very large Edtech company, same problem. Data is all over the place, really complicated. It takes a long time to set it up. And so I thought, if I was the end user, right, if I was the marketer day to day, what would I want? And I want something that's no code, right? I want something where I can click a few buttons and the magic happens, and I can get reports, can get visualizations. I can see what's making money, what's losing money. I can move really fast.
And the customer that you have, or where you used to work before, from the CMO perspective, what are they asking? What do they need?
I mean, I think there's definitely a shift now, right, where a lot of CMOs have revenue responsibility, right? So they're accountable for revenue CAC. Or driving qualified leads, as opposed to just purely brand. And now there's this challenge of everything is digital, and then the big thing is cost per leads are going up, right? Or CAC is rising, customer acquisition costs. And now you're under the pressure. Like, what do you do, right? How do you produce that same revenue, but at the same cost as last year? How do I save costs? And you have all this data, right? You're running all these campaigns, you're doing so many things, but it's kind of pretty buried inside. The joke I used to make is the time you do all this data analysis is every 3 months when there's a board meeting and you're running around trying to get the data, present to the CFO, present to the board. But why can't this be a real-time dashboard that you're looking at, every day, every week, however often?
I think it's important to note, the inflation in costs, right? The inflation at Google and Facebook is much higher than the inflation that that we're living in the States and around the world, right? And so that's unnerving for anybody that has P&L responsibility. And obviously everybody's jumping on board and doing their advertising online. And if Google and Facebook make up 70 to 80% of like the land out there, you have to play there, and you got to be sharp, and you got to be fast, right?
So Max, I mean, what are the CMOs that you work with? What are they asking you for when you look at marketing analytics? Or they're asking for something, but they don't know it.
I think sometimes they're a little bit lost in the weeds there, because I think what Ajay said was very important. The data is in a lot of different places, right? So you might have part of your marketing budget outsourced to an agency that does Facebook and Instagram, and then you may have another one that's there doing TikTok, and then another one that's doing Google, or you might have a blend of some folks on the inside, working the ad budgets. But when you start to you have these silos, and everybody's measuring things the best way they know how. And then where I find the huge disconnect is in what were the sales, right? And so then all of a sudden marketing and sales are a little bit, they're chocando, no? And I think that's a big issue for
Welcome to the Spanish edition of Tomando Café con Jesús Hoyos.
Exacto. Se me va el inglés y luego se me va el español. So who knows? but I think that's an important item to note, right? And then so you don't have marketing and sales working together as much as they should, but the budget is over there with the marketing leader, right? And so that's where the rubber meets the road. And if you don't have the sales data, it's hard to also maximize that marketing budget as well.
So let me ask you, Vijay, when you don't have the sales data, and and you have companies who are doing agile marketing, or they're doing growth marketing, you need to have the data there so you can make quick decisions, because when you apply growth methodologies, you are learning as you go, you're testing, you're constantly changing, and you cannot make an assumption based on on data that is in different places. You need to have it centralized. So how important is to have that concept of growth marketing analytics?
Yeah, let's use the example. I like the example Max gave, because it's a great one with most marketing orgs, right? If you're producing leads, I produce 100 leads, I hit my goal, I feel great. But actually, I could have totally missed my goal, because if those 100 leads convert to 0 sales, right? A month down the road, when we go through all those leads, we're like, wow, we totally missed it. But then if we can connect the marketing data, those leads, to sales, and as every day, say sales is talking to those leads, they're qualifying them, then they can turn around a lot faster, right? They can turn around instead of a quarter later when you look back at the data. Could it be that next week where you're like, oh, wow, we saw this one ad creative is driving all these sales qualified leads, or, depending on your sales force, warm 1, warm 2, closed wins are happening, and that can change the game, right? And when we talked about this big challenge everybody talks about is rising CPLs or rising CAC. How do you become more efficient? So one way is, instead of the joke of 50% of, marketing, I don't know what's working, what's not, right? Can you actually become much more accurate about what's working, what's not, cut the dead spend, scale the stuff that's working, and then really drive growth? And kind of like that growth marketing is almost around that full funnel analysis, right? So the funnel starts maybe it's the ad creative that somebody sees, the multiple touch points, but then it actually doesn't end there, right? Like the great marketers see what happens throughout the funnel. Do they actually convert through the sales process?
Because I see a lot of pain points, depending of of your organization. It's we're doing marketing analytics because it's focused on managing all your campaigns all the way down to sales, the whole integrated funnel, and it's more a business project versus an IT project where you have engineers, data scientists, and then you don't have talent, people who understand data, who understand technology, and today we're talking a lot about omni-channel everything, lots of channels. I mean, I'm talking from TikTok and Facebook, and within Facebook and Instagram, and they go back to WhatsApp, and they go back to retargeting, and chat and the phone and so on, and all that, the managing multiple channels, creates multiple set of data sets, So and then you have tons of data that you don't know how to identify and make it happen. So what are the traditional pain points, that you guys see out there that, hopefully, something like Growth Nirvana or no code, can help them solve as they start using this, a tool like Growth Nirvana?
I'll let Ajay go, and then I'll complement what.
Yeah, I'll say the first thing. I think there's like this wave of no-code products, and they kind of solve two problems. One is the no-code product is being sold to the end user, the marketer. So it's not the IT org or the engineering org that decided this product I'm going to deploy. It's the marketer who uses the product and says, oh, wow, this actually helps me so much, I want to use it. And then the other one is, maybe you call it the Great Resignation, or maybe you call it technology is just booming and there's so hard to hire software engineers, data science analysts. Like, how are you even going to build? Every company needs to have these, orgs that have this capability, and it's just so hard, right? Like the few engineers you have, you probably want them focused on your product. And so hopefully what we can solve is we can solve the technology piece. And then what we can help the marketing org with is, now there's dashboards we can look at every week. We can create a process. Let's look at these every week, become data-driven. Let's, drive changes based upon what we see.
And I think the other thing is that access to data sometimes can be challenging, right? And so there are a lot of businesses that make it or break it. Say in e-commerce, we're talking about hours, right? Days coming right out of Black Friday or whatnot. But in other businesses, there are peak times, right? And you're always spending money because that's what you're always going to hear is you got to keep your campaigns running, and you don't know when you're losing money, right? And so the board report or the weekly report doesn't really work in the in a data-driven marketing sense, right? I mean, you have to have the information daily because the competition isn't sitting still, right?
Right. You mentioned, Black Friday, and in Mexico, we have the good weekend, the good fin de, or buen fin de, and then we have buen fin, and then we have Cyber Monday. Why do we have to wait for those dates, to talk about marketing analytics and personalization, and going back to what Max is saying, we have solutions that are not code. I mean, we should start doing this, January 1st, not wait until, November, and by the way, we all know that right after Christmas, we have another boom of sales, things that people are returning, things that they was never sold, but it still is product driven. It's not data driven. How we, is that a trend that we see in the market? Because now attribution between mobile devices, especially now with iOS, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 devices in front of me. Okay, between the laptop, the iOS, the iPad, and I get ads everywhere. and then we have, all these paid channels that, they go after you. And I know somebody put the other day, a friend of mine on Twitter, there's this guy that shows up on YouTube. They say, you got 30 seconds. I'm going to tell you how you're going to change your life. The guy shows up, big guy, selling you, I forgot what he was selling. But, you have all these ads that are following you, and people are not really, investing in data-driven solutions. How you guys see that, from that perspective?
I mean, I think the thing I'm seeing, we have a set of customers that use us, and I talk to a lot of people in the industry. I'm finding that the fastest growing companies are all extremely data-driven, and they're doing what you said, Jesus. They might say, oh, you know what? It's really expensive to buy advertising maybe during certain times of the year. Can I, take advantage of New Year's resolutions first week of January, or maybe Father's Day, Mother's Day? Are there different ways to, really, because basically the same metrics, right? It's revenue and CAC, right? So how can I, in an annual basis, what are those times I can do, unique things to crack it? And in some ways, the data doesn't lie, right? Like if you have this huge amount of data, there's amazing insights that's buried in there. What ad creative does better? Is it easy to do experiments? This sometimes when we kind of Growth Nirvana to a company, usually we'll have a first call to show them how it works, and there's always a ton of spend that's wasted, right? Because it's just inefficient for a long period of time. So wow, you could just cut that. You could redeploy it to new experiments, and you might have a set of ad creative that's crushing it, or maybe even channels you don't expect that's doing well. Just because, as you said, there's so many channels, so many things going on, it can be sometimes super hard to even figure out what's even working without a data-driven solution.
Yeah, and I think granularity is critical here, right? Because you could how many campaigns, ad sets can you have running at one time, right? And it's amazing. You always talk about you always talk at a very macro umbrella type of level, but then you don't get into the weeds, and that's where you either make it or break it, right? And so having tools that can at least it can show you a red number, it can show you a green number, then you have to start asking more questions, and as you ask questions, you'll get the data insight, and that data insight, maybe that will maybe you also get to a qualitative insight as well, right? Because there's science behind creative, but there's some things around creative that are just purely subjective, right? But as you start to look at that data, asking yourselves the questions. I'm not talking about it was a green button, it was a red button, but really trying to understand who were you targeting, at what time, at what moment in time were you targeting that person? Had they had an interaction with you, prior, and as we know, there's some people that are impulse purchasers, and then there's other people. Well, I'm definitely more on the impulse side, but there's lots of people that aren't impulse, and they take time to make a decision. And a lot of times we're just talking. We're only thinking.
We lost him. There we go. I think we lost Max.
Max is going to work on his connection. Yeah, I'll chime in while Max sets up. Actually, the point Max made, and I think Jesus, you mentioned earlier too, is this kind of usability or friction. So for example, say there's a report that just tells me what's happening every day, right? But then say there's a report that tells me what's happening across geo, gender, age, all these other variables. And the thing that technology is great at is it can automatically do these things, right? And typically, if you ask a CMO, hey, are there analyses you want to see and you don't get? That's always the case, right? And so, and if you can remove that friction, that's the opportunity to find insights, new opportunities, etc.
Yeah, I'm gonna make here a disclaimer because Max is trying to reconnect. But I've been working with Max for many years, and we tried, one of the key things he asked me, I remember having a conversation with him. He called me like at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. He had like a 7 o'clock meeting. He said, why the hotspot data that I see is not the same as the one in Salesforce and the same that is in Google Analytics? And we're like, holy cow, thank you. 4 o'clock question, lifeline. That was like a lifeline question,
Yeah.
And, it was because of the synchronization between, marketing analytics, within Hotspot, then Hotspot, pushing that conversion, that Google ID, that pixel ID from Facebook to the opportunity or to the shopping cart, and so fast forward, I do remember that, it's probably 3 or 6 months, a common customer that I have with Max, he said, hey, this is the first time I had the CMO and I had the chief revenue officer for a particular academic program, one of the major universities in Mexico. And they tell me, this is the first time that I'm sitting down with, chief revenue officer, and the chief marketing officer, me, looking at the same set of data, synchronized, and I can see the Facebook assets, I can see the conversion rate all the way to the lead, and I can, make decisions so I can understand the data. And we were not using anything fancy in terms of analytics. They were understanding the small data. So, and that's my question to you now, because, marketing and sales all the time, they're fighting each other. They don't have an integrated funnel. It doesn't matter you're doing e-commerce or B2B, B2C, or direct to consumer. You still encounter that issue, And my question to you, how sales and marketing can work better, if they have, not code growth marketing analytics, so they can make better decisions.
No, you exactly nailed it, which is if they're looking at the same data and it's an integrated report, then they can speak the same language, right? Because if they're speaking different languages, like, hey, on Facebook, I got you this many clicks and this many leads. And then the salesperson is like, hey, these opportunities aren't closing. The language is different. But if it's actually a funnel where you get to see impressions, cost per click, leads, then say their funnel is opportunity closed 1 LTV, then you're aligned. And then the salesperson can be like, oh, look at all this LTV I'm getting from this bucket of users. Marketing, can you get more of this? And then, I guess the dream, Jesus, is they're now a team working together. I had a boss, this was my first job out of college, and he said, hey, the goal of any exec team is to make sure the guns are facing outwards, not inwards. I thought that was a brilliant line, because it's so natural where the marketing person and the salespeople are fighting, or the engineering person is fighting with, like, everybody's fighting each other. But if you can be on the same page and working as a team, I mean, the output can be spectacular.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal, definitely. Could you elaborate a little bit about product qualified lead?
Yeah, this whole this is becoming like a hot buzzword or a hot topic nowadays, especially because we had all these IPOs the last couple of years, and a lot of them were product-driven growth companies or product-led growth, right? So like Zoom, or Slack, different products where end users uses it and spreads in the organization. And so now there's this new concept of, is it, you have the SQL sales qualified lead, but is there a product qualified lead where marketing drives people into a product? Then they use the product, and now the product usage data is saying, Jesus is using this a lot. Now the sales team should go after them. But also the marketing team should know, because they need to go market after more people like that. Especially a lot of these land and expand products where, like, I use it and then my colleague uses it and now suddenly the whole company is using it. And I think that trend will probably continue to grow, because the fundamental concept is the buyer is the user of the product, not the IT organization, right?
Bingo.
I think that's like, it's trial, right? No, all products are trial, right? Yeah. So conceptually, somebody tried your product. Now, what do you, how do you, are they using it a lot, using it a little? You guys, the company has that data, but then, you can probably segment that and say, this is a high potential, right? This is a mid potential, this is a low potential type of client.
And Ajay, this is something that I always fight, with many of the industry leaders out there, because you sell to a lead, to a prospect, and then that prospect becomes an account, and that's legacy. I mean, you're selling, and I think you're selling to Jesus Hoyos, okay? That happened that he works for Solvis, or CX2 Advisory, and there is a structure, but understand that user who wants to use the product or the service, and then you inspect, and at the very end, we are persons. And one of the challenges that I see with all these marketing analytics tools is that it's tough to put together a data model, that's coming from Facebook, identifying not the click, but Jesus Hoyos on Facebook, or Jesus Hoyos on LinkedIn, Twitter, and communities, the CRM, and so on and so on and so on. And they focus more on the account, and there's a lot of land and expand approaches, that is focused on the account, not on the user, and a lot of people miss that. I have plenty of examples, and the other day, in conversation that we had, with Paul Greenberg and Brent Larry on CRM Playas the other day, I asked the questions: are the vendors ready to understand the users? Do they have the right tools to understand the users? Because they, believe me, pick any CRM vendor. Every time that I go in, they identify Solvis and they call me. Hey, we can help you increase the sales at Solvis. I say, you're talking to me to begin with, But it's funny because, talking to Paul Greenberg and the others, say, that happens to us too all the time, So people are forgetting, people are not using these tools. So will marketing analytics tools also, not code, be able to be in front of any user so they can make decisions quickly, be empowered to make decisions with that data?
So, I mean, we built the product the same way we want to be treated, right? So our product is, you can go in, use it for 14 days for free. You know how the old school enterprise sales is, hey, sign up for this POC 6 months long. We try to flip it where when we demo the product, we'll just do it on your own data and show you value. And that's like almost flipping it, right? It's flipping the model of, I'm not trying to lock you into a contract. I'm trying to deliver value so that, you want to pay for what I've built. And I think we've seen this trend in other products, right? Like, a lot of these bottoms up software products are out there. I wonder if it was kind of like the previous decade, it was more like, we're applying technology to the enterprise. And that's huge. Like that just didn't exist. Now it's the next stage of, can we be so end user focused? Almost like bringing B2C tactics in terms of, I choose whatever product on my iPhone. Like I buy an iPhone instead of an Android because I like it, right? I made that decision. It wasn't my family's IT organization. So,
So tell me about Growth Nirvana. What do I need to buy it? Trials. Do I need to have a dedicated team? Training. How the no code growth concept platform that you have, will help companies.
And the other thing is it easy to set up? I think just from the clients that I speak to and the companies I'm invested in, that's always something that comes up, right? It's all kinds of barriers as to, no, I can't get the data. I don't have enough resources. This is, it's too complicated. I'll do it next quarter, which is the easiest. It's the easiest way to say no and also get fired.
Yeah. So the key thing, it's a great question, Max. Key thing is no resources needed because no code, 5 minutes to set up. So, you log in, you connect to your systems, you're a marketing leader, you have access to those systems, and then we'll hop on a call and walk you through all the reports. And what we try to do is sometimes, as Max said, hey, is this so complicated? Well, we'll generate a set of reports that can just show you, hey, what campaigns should you be turning off because they're, poor ROI? What stuff can you scale? And these are the insights that are hidden. And then as companies use the product more over time, there's more advanced use cases we can get them in. But our key value prop is, 5 minutes to set up and no complex anything.
So what's the key differentiator for you in order to do that compared to other tools out there that minimum is 120K to start a project?
I think the difference is if you started a analytics company 10 years ago, you could charge 250K and just get somebody to pay for it. I think we built the product this past year, 12 months, based on our personal experiences building these systems, at Masterclass, at Emeritus. So we thought, hey, what would be the ideal experience for our end users? And so that's why it's, hey, I want to be set up in 5 minutes. I want to see value. And our data infrastructure is set up in a way that it can enable it to work in this manner, which is probably, different. There's another trend that's happened where all your data is in the cloud now, right? Facebook's in the cloud, your Google Ad spend's in the cloud, your databases you're all using is in the cloud. So, maybe that makes it easier. Maybe 20 years ago, it was all on-prem in legacy databases without APIs.
So in terms of empowerment, you talk to, give you the use case, And the CMO, I have 5 brands. Okay. And, within 5 brands, I might have 10 agencies.
Yeah.
How would, a Growth Nirvana solution help, that use case in particular?
So
let me complicate it even more.
Yeah.
I have,
Max is gonna double it.
Max already have a few whiskey.
No, I'm still on my first. We could really complicate this. I've got a few email marketing systems.
Yeah.
Right. I've got maybe a couple of different CRMs. Maybe I'm using Salesforce and Dynamics, and why not? Why not throw in there? I've got affiliate marketers and Google as well as Facebook. That I'm investing in.
With 5 or 6 different agencies.
Yeah, exactly.
And multi-brand.
So actually, the more complicated the use case, the better our value prop's even clearer, because it's still the same 5 minutes where you log in and you basically give us access to those accounts, right? And we'll automatically go to, because what we essentially do behind the scenes is we connect to over 200 platforms. So, you name the email system, we'll support it. We'll connect to it, we'll bring in the data, transform it, normalize it in a format that's understandable by marketing, generate the reports. And so actually the value prop, when you're a marketing leader, you have multiple brands, multiple agencies working, the agency is always telling you things are amazing. We're crushing it.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you need to push the agency a little bit. And so what we can do is we can produce reports and say, hey, these are what ad creatives are working, what's not, in an easy to understand way for the CMO, right? This is what's working, what's not across different campaigns, different brands you're using, and then that can help the organization prioritize. Okay, let's go after these and make changes.
People who are listening to us now, and whenever I publish the podcast and they go on business, they're gonna say,
I don't believe it.
I have the great answer.
I'm gonna switch to Spanish. Mentira.
They're like too much. So
they already have too much
too
whiskey.
Good to be true.
The best answer I have is free trial, right? So all you do is go to Growth Nirvana and sign up, and you'll go through the experience. You'll do a couple links, and then you'll hop on the call. So it's basically 5 minutes of your time, and you'll get to see the value out of it. So we're live with about 20 companies. So we've been doing this for quite a bit now. So we're pretty confident in the solution. Yeah.
So companies that have now the tableaus out there, and the Power BIs, and Datorama, Domo, there's many out there. To be honest, I forgot how many out there, and they bought each other, and the Cognos and everything. We've been trying to do stuff, and this is real. We've been in projects, that, IT takes 6 months to connect, a Tableau, for example, to all these sources. And the challenge that I see there, it's not technology, it's having access to the data, the protocols, the security. It's funny because I was talking a long time ago with Stefan Kolsky. He used to be an influencer analyst, now with SAP. And I do remember saying that when Salesforce bought Tableau, that Salesforce all of a sudden became a client-server company, because Tableau has a lot of, client-server technologies, they have a bunch of stuff now in the cloud, but there's a lot of legacy BI, because of security and stuff that is internal, and they want to use that technology to connect to the cloud, and that's why you see a company like Snowflake that, they're moving everything quickly to the cloud, and I guess, to understand more, you approach, you are, a new cloud breed, new technology, a bunch of stuff that you have that makes you unique. So make sure that you can do this in 5 minutes, because I hear you, and I know we had this conversation with you. You take care of the data transformation in that process.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So could
you elaborate on that?
The key thing, I think for me, when I first saw the product and it was eye-opening, is that there are some out-of-the-box reports that are very focused in on, is my marketing adding value, right? I think that's that was kind of like a key thing for me when I saw the product. I said, wow, this could really help a lot of CMOs, and that's where, I got super excited about this product. And then the other thing, sorry to steal some of your thunder, Ajay, but I think if you want to be, extraordinary at something, you have to focus in on just one thing, right? And I think that's what Growth Nirvana is doing versus some of these other solutions that there's some that are enterprise and there's some that are at SME, but you can't be great at everything, right? And where the marketing spend is going and where and who's accountable, and just the fact that the lifetime of a CMO is short in and of itself. If I was in the seat of a CMO, and I've been in that seat, I'd want to make sure that I can, that I'm able to make fast, smart decisions and deliver results, right? So go ahead, Ajay.
I think you said it great. I think the only thing I would add is, the challenge of some of these tools. So say Snowflake's a great data warehouse, right? Similar to, GCP, a Google Cloud Platform, but Snowflake doesn't solve, I can analyze, the return on investment in cities or brands better. Snowflake plus some data engineers, plus some analysts, plus some Tableau on top, so there's a lot of things that have to happen, which leads to the 6 to 9 month process at large enterprises to get the value for the marketer. And as part of that journey, maybe the data team's doing 20, 30 things, as opposed to what are the key things we need for great marketing analysis. And so that's kind of the perspective we come from, which is maybe part of the differentiation, right? I think the big one is also probably time to market, right? So, or time to value. So, when you buy enterprise software, it's like, hey, when will I get value? And so legacy products are, hey, 6 months POC deployment cycle, we'll be up and running, we'll work with you. Am I going to get time to value in 9 months, 1 year? Maybe never. A lot of IT projects fail. And, are we now more in this bucket of, 1 day you see value and then 7 days it's like incredible value, right?
I think, Max, something that you mentioned, when you look at the reports in Growth Nirvana, a CMO, by just looking at the 2 or 3 reports, they see where marketing is adding value. So you get, I don't want to call it a picture, but you get a story. The data will tell you the story. And I think that's the challenge that we have today. In try to to use, this marketing analytics, because people don't understand the data that they have in front of them. They don't. It's not only that it's not structured, it's not normalized, it's not clean, structure and no structural data, small data versus big data. A lot of people don't understand, what they have in front of them. And I think, one of the challenges, that I see many of the project is just understand the basic report, the basic, view of that you have in your CRM or your marketing automation or your Facebook ad, understand that data and how that data connects to the other, silos that you have out there. So when you bring all that together with something like Growth Nirvana that you use in the code, and especially when you're a company who are focusing in growth, you need to understand the data. And I think, the same thing by looking at Growth Nirvana, was able to understand the data right away, and I think that's something that is empower. It's a good empowerment. So, CMOs and anybody can make decisions based on that data, actionable decisions, let's stop that campaign. Let's improve that campaign, whatever that is, hey, the problem is not with the asset on Facebook. The problem is converting that lead to within the opportunity. We need to change this over here. Don't change the marketing dollars that you have, from that point of view. So, Ajay, I mean, how, give you we have another 5 minutes or so. What else can you tell us about, Growth Nirvana?
I can share a little bit of, what I've seen. We have maybe around 22 customers on the platform last, 6 months or so. I can tell you kind of what are the learnings I've seen from them. So I'd say, one is the use case you described, out of the box reports, they get the value. The other thing I've seen is there's this trend around attribution is, harder or missing more than ever before. And what happens is if you're a B2B organization, you don't know what to do, right? Say 80% is unattributed. So now, how do you as a CMO justify value? And so one of the things we do is we have a set of reports to help you identify the challenges with the attribution, fix it, have that insights to help you then justify what you're doing. Because the joke is, if you turned off, all of your marketing initiatives, it's not like the 80% would, unattributed is still going, right? All that quote unquote organic would disappear. It's actually unattributed. It's not pure organic. But I think that trend will continue because of the privacy laws and
cookies,
all of that. And then I think, there's another interesting bucket around when I think of these data silos. I think we touched that at the beginning of the call. Connecting these data sources is more important than ever before because of this efficiency challenge. So for example, if I can just put money into Facebook and I get a bunch of leads and I don't have to optimize anything and I'm just, I'm growing like crazy, then you don't have to do anything, right? And maybe that was the case 3-4 years ago when these platforms are taking off and people are just selling like crazy. I think the time now, there's so much competition on these platforms. You really have to understand your user. And the data, can really show you, is your hypothesis of who your users are, those personas, do they work? Can you get them cost effectively, et cetera? And, and maybe the only last one is I always give this line to people: faster insights is faster growth, right? So are you operating on a quarterly basis, a monthly basis, or can you actually be daily, right? And, that can change the game for any company, right? Just learning so fast, you can totally change how a marketing team, performs.
Max, anything you want to add?
I think, a question to Ajay would be what's next, right, for Growth Nirvana based on all this feedback that you've received. Maybe your second point, but are there some things there that you're seeing that, these marketers are like, geez, if you could only solve this additional problem for me, it would.
It feels like right now everybody's all about, hey, my CACs are rising. Can you solve it? Okay. I think the secondary one around that would be, as we get more and more companies on the platform, I think attribution is always this like magical problem. Every organization does it differently. They're trying to solve it. And can we bring some best practices and help organizations through it? Because it's the same thing where, every company is either building their own thing to do it, or
I think attribution would be a huge thing. I think
maybe call it data hygiene, where like people think they're doing some attribution model, but they're not. So it's like, bogus attribute. So can we help get that back on track? So.
Well, it's funny because it's one thing to do reports about attributions. One thing is to fix the data so you can do attribution reports.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you mentioned that, and I think just by that, I mean that's a good added value right there. And again, going back, people need to understand the data, and if they don't, who knows,
100%. I mean, you actually find it surprising. Most of the companies we roll out with, the first thing we find is our reports we generate are different than their internal reports. And the reason why is we go directly to the APIs. We're getting the raw data directly from Salesforce, directly from Facebook, directly from wherever. While a lot of companies, their reports are layers of code. It might have been written 5 years ago, 7 years ago, more code. Maybe there's not good QA. You ask questions like, hey, why is it different? Oh, the engineer worked on that, did it 4 years. Oh, we hired this consulting company, they're long gone.
And that's
like, how can you be using this to make all your decisions, right? Because the bug can even just be in the report, right? So,
and that's why the importance of no code.
It is.
Because you simplify, you package everything in that no code, and you don't have layers and layers and layers of interpretation of that data, and the interpretation of that code that you're writing, whatever SQL that you put in, formulas that you can have. I mean, definitely that's something that is extremely important. And I think that's it. I mean, I think you said it right there. That's the first thing.
That's the holy grail.
That's the holy grail.
Holy grail.
So. That's your audit. That's your reality check. What? That is what? It's important.
The problem is that the data isn't always what you want to know or what you want to hear. Right?
We should have that feature, a magic feature where we magically improve your CAC. Change the numbers.
I mean, this is something that has nothing to do with whiskey and marketing analytics. But do you follow college basketball?
I do not actually.
You know that? So
I do not, because I grew up in Canada. So
okay.
I'm. What are you a big college basketball fan?
Well, I just want to plug this guy over here.
Iowa State Cyclones are undefeated. That's all he wants to say.
Yeah, exactly. They're undefeated. I don't know why, because Kansas, which is his team, is number 7. In the AP ranking, and it's 8-1. Iowa State is number 11, and we're 10-0. Baylor is number 1. We're from the Big 8, Big 12 conference. This is basketball. Football is something. It's different.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different. So,
are you guys college football fans at all, or is just college basketball?
Yeah, let me show you this.
I don't have a football team.
Look, I am a Cyclone fan.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah, so that's that's what I met my wife, and I have many friends over there. So I'm a Big 12 basketball person, so from that point. So I just when he knew right away, that Iowa State wasn't defeated.
I knew where he was going with this.
Yeah. Listen, Vijay, I think we have a go live or something, so important meetings, and he calls me. Look at my iPad. I'm watching the Final Four. So what's wrong with the project? Yeah, let's wait for the game. So one final mention here, and I think that this evolution of no code, growth, marketing analytics is really important. I think if I want to summarize this, I think your last statement that you go directly to the APIs and you bring all that data, and you have some unique technology, you can quickly deploy things, and you start understanding the data. I think that's very key versus show me the reports. Of course, you gotta watch the reports, and goes back to what Max was saying. By just looking, there's a story that you want to tell, and once you understand that data, then I think you can quickly move into whatever methodology you're using, you as a company for growth marketing, growth sales, whatever you want to call it. to be able to use, tools like Growth Nirvana to do it, So if people, in Latin America want to, reach out to you and everything, they can go to Growth Nirvana and they ask for a trial, they contact you, how that goes.
That's exactly right. Just go to Growth Nirvana and just, there's a link there and they can sign up. Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So don't go. Again,
Ajay, any language barriers there with with people in Latin America?
No, yeah. I mean, most of our team is actually Spanish. Actually, it's funny. Everybody in the team speaks Spanish except for me. So how about that? All the engineers speak Spanish.
That's what I wanted to let everybody know in Latin America. That's
yeah. My co-founder Jesse speaks Spanish. Actually,
he
should have attended.
Barriers.
Yeah, no language barriers, so no English required. Only to understand this podcast.
Exactly.
Plus, you come from an international company, so you understand what does it mean to deploy this type of solutions,
exactly
in other regions. So that's very important as well, so people understand that.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm gonna switch now to Spanish here. Ajay and Max, thank you. Don't go. Stay here with me, okay? Don't disappear me until I do the outro. I really appreciate you, Max and Ajay, for the whiskey. Salud. Cheers. Okay. So. Salud. Como ya saben, esto fue Jesús Hoyos de Tomando Café con Jesús Hoyos. Este es el último live stream podcast de Tomando Café con Jesús Hoyos. Conversaciones de CRM fue la semana pasada, fue el último. Ok, y el lunes voy a tener el último podcast de cápsulas de Customer Engagement sobre Omnichannel, que llevo como 2 semanas tarde en subirlo, pero voy a subirlo y voy a regresar con todo en febrero, así que estén pendientes y si me pueden seguir, pues jesushoyos.com, follow me, y ya saben, si quieren conocer de Growth Nirvana, pues vayan al website de growthnirvana.com para que los conozcan. Muchas gracias y nos vemos por ahí en el mundo de la internet y sigan cuidándose por ahí con este tema del COVID. Hasta la próxima.